Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Raman. I'm an engineer turned performance scientist and a corporate learning leader for a $30 billion US based organization. I'm also an author of 20 books and I run a research forum, ExpertX. I work specifically on how to shorten time to proficiency and accelerate expertise of your workforce. Today, I intend to give you some research based insights on how organizations are leveraging or could leverage technologies to develop a competitive workforce at the speed of business. Let's see an employee's journey. An employee's journey starts when he or she is hired in a new role. We give them some starting point through onboarding programs. We provide them with training on essential skills they need for the job. Then they do the job with some on the job support before they become fully proficient in their job. Let me get out of the way for a moment so that you can see this slide. Proficiency is what we strive in organizations. It's basically a point where these employees deliver results consistently, repeatedly, reliably, and independently. But to reach that stage, it takes time. For instance, a semicon equipment repair engineer today takes about 3 years to reach that stage. It's massive time. Deloitte did a study in 2017 and they stated that the speed and agility are far more important than efficiency to survive in business. It's the speed with which you develop the performance of your workforce. The idea is to reduce that long time to proficiency and employee takes. Not just new hires, you have seen during this pandemic how badly you needed current employees to gain mastery in new things, new solutions, new technologies, and at a very high pace. When you reduce that time to proficiency faster than your competitors does, you stay ahead in the market. Now, the question comes is how does technologies play a role in accelerating employees to that proficiency level? I conducted a massive study with over 70 world-class organizations who had the success stories to have shortened the time to proficiency of their employees. That study involved 85 world class leaders across 42 industries, some 20 business sectors. I studied 66 successful projects in different types of jobs like sales, finance, technology, etc. etc. While my question was about overall strategies to shorten time to proficiency, what I found is that several organizations used technology as one of the key mechanisms. I observed close to about 200 different technologies used at various points in time during employees' journey, starting from hiring to proficiency. Today, I'm going to give you some powerful insights how organizations leverage technologies to shorten time to proficiency and how you could do too. The technologies used by organizations varied from one context to other. For instance, organizations in cutting edge financial services, they used state of the art technologies, while the retail business organization used more accessible technologies. Based on the end goal, I saw these technologies fall into four groups. The first group was related to technologies that were primarily meant for workforce analytics. That included technologies to track talent metrics, performance metrics, activity metrics, skill metrics, and things like that. The second group was related to technologies used for learning, teaching, training. Things like designing and delivering training, distributing and accessing content, certification, and assessments. The third group was related to technologies that supported the performance of employees in the field or on the job. It included things like mentoring, coaching, job aids, resources, procedures, and automation. The last group involved those technologies that supported social connections, networks, communities, and interactions. Today, in this limited time, I would cite only one example in each group to put the things in context. Let's first talk about workforce analytic. Workforce analytics included three subgroups of technologies. Let me get out of the way for this slide so that you can read it. First one is about profiling the performers. Different organizations have a different range of technologies to profile the skills, expertise, and capabilities of their employees. But it's mostly hiring focused, promotion focused, and serve probably only the HR department. Well, mostly. However, some organizations do have annual surveys or assessment of their employee skills. Some even track the behaviors they displayed to bring out those outcomes. The goal of such technologies is to identify who your star performers are, who have shown a shorter time to proficiency. Once you identify them, you can then figure out what they do differently. Perhaps you could teach some of those behaviors to the remaining workforce to accelerate them as well. Guess what? Once you know what success behaviors you need for an employee to be proficient at a faster rate, you would then hire new candidate for exact those behaviors, isn't it? That can give organization a head start in terms of needing lesser time to develop. This also means you can identify who produces results and probably could coach new people to induct the right kind of behaviors. Another thing this does is to match the right people to the right job. This simple action accelerates proficiency tremendously when the right skills are applied to the right job. You don't have to learn anything new now. The second subgroup of technologies are meant to track the point of proficiency. These techs allows employees to log, track, and analyze their outputs, outcomes, results, revenues, productivities across one employee or group of employees or even the entire job role. These technologies allow you to track, monitor, and measure time to proficiency. Very important metrics. Then you can take the right action to shorten if it is unacceptably long. The third set of technologies are related to actually analyzing the nature of work, activities, events, and tasks. Organizations use these to understand deeply what is that employees doing in order to produce the results. The goal of these technologies is to find out what really matters for training. Next set of technologies that impacted speed are related to training and learning. Perhaps name learning technologies is not that intuitive anymore because now the boundary between learning and work are diffused. There are five kinds of learning technologies I observed in my research. I'm going to turn on my cam so that you can see the full slide. There's a little bit more content on the slide. Most of the learning technologies can make learning accessible, flexible, low cost, and more scalable, among other benefits. But only a few of them really have the potential to impact the speed to proficiency. The first subgroup of technologies are those related to learning management systems, LMS. So LMS typically are comparable across the board and do not directly impact the speed of employee development. The only promising technology is which supports adaptive learning paths. The adaptive learning path can enable differently skilled people to complete different learning requirements via different routes if system determines that they are already qualified in those tasks. That shortens the time for certain employees. The second group of technologies are related to actually training or delivering learning, content, skill, or classroom experiences. In this pandemic, you have seen vast application of virtual or remote training technologies. Now the world is moving to virtual learning platforms which allows adding much capacity quickly to run through many people into the program. If people wait for instructor led training to get started for their jobs, then adding capacity via virtual mode can help shorten the curve. Otherwise, not all learning technologies directly impact speed to proficiency or have very minimal contribution in that direction. But converse of this is true. If learning technology done not done right, it may rather become a hindrance to speed. For instance, a social interaction intensive job role, try putting them through an endless stream of online learning and you would see that the speed get hampered negatively. So one recommendation I would suggest is that when choosing learning technology, focus on skills, not on content. Most of the technologies in learning space still tend to be largely content focused. The third group is mobile learning and self paced learning technologies. These are used to enable employees to learn on the go. It can speed up the process of acquiring and accessing the learning content at a faster rate when they need it, where they need it. But mobile learning technologies do not necessarily accelerate speed to proficiency unless these are integrated into on demand, just in time performance support system. I will talk about performance support technologies in a while. The fourth one, AR, VR, and the fifth one, immersive technologies. Those are the flavors of the town. Let's talk about those. The augmentation and reality technologies basically are now on the storm. A simple version is basically an augmented screen made available in the headset that acts as a teaching aid. Example is Google glasses, smart glasses. Okay, so employee can play step-by-step instructions or videos on these augmented screens while learning to do the task with hands. The other version is the actual augmented reality technology, which has an augmented screen in front of eyes on which employees can run immersive models, videos, instructions, procedures, or other learning material while doing a task with hands. For example, repairing a machine needs both hands. I'm sure many of you have experienced or seen it in some videos. They can control with the voice commands or gestures, and they can learn step by step and perform that step or check back instructions to do it again. The next extension is virtual reality, which puts you into a very close to real virtual world, I would say. Some tasks may not be practical or risky to do in actual environment. For example, to practice on putting out the fire or handling the medical emergencies or even combat situations in the war. Those can be effectively taught using VR and it would shorten the time significantly, at least the training time. All right. And similar categories are immersive technologies that allow designers to build a gamified virtual world on computers. These are almost like gaming scenarios, but these would allow employees to have multi-sensory experience, feedback while solving realistic situations. For instance, an underground mining company, they built the entire underground mine virtually to train their employees in different uh, potentially risky situations that may occur. Obviously, you wouldn't want to train them in the actual event, but prepare them through immersive technologies to handle these unpleasant, riskier, or hazardous situations. When you make information, knowledge, and learning available to employees just in time at the point of need during the workflow, when their questions get answered while doing a task, they can almost apply it in the context of the job immediately. This tremendously improves the performance, accelerate the speed to proficiency. The point is, they use it not before but during the task as part of the workflow. These cannot be some tools sitting on the sideline. These technologies are called performance support systems. The performance support system is a very important concept that all leaders should know. And this is the space where the technology is evolving every day. Okay. All right. So we're going to move next very quickly. Here I have given 8 different types of performance technologies which I saw in my research. The performance support technologies can be job aid, checklist, task sheets, flowcharts, procedures, a model, algorithm, a decision table. It can be many things. The truth is that properly designed job aids can eliminate the need for training altogether. Number 4 and number 8 are quite a direction changing performance support technology these days. I would spend a couple of minutes elaborating those. These are setting standards on how learning technologies, social technologies, and performance support technologies need to be rethought. Okay. Number 1 is the augmented and virtual reality based performance support systems. Which have a tremendous value and application beyond training. The philosophy is simple. If you get precise contextual instructions on what to do at a given point, it cuts short the time to training and it allows you to be productive independently at a faster rate. Using augmented headset, an employee can access the instructions or video or other help while working on a task with his hands. They don't have to look for menus or papers. Using AR headsets, the real augmented reality headsets, they can achieve the same thing, but then it does not restrict the vision. Rather, it superimposes work instructions onto employees' normal vision while keeping his hands free for doing complex tasks. AR headsets can support tons of different medias to make work highly successful, like even pointing out the errors that employee is making in the real time. Those instructions are just in time during the workflow. And it has seen a lot of success in shortening time to proficiency, particularly in complex tasks like building products or repairing equipment. A lot is really happening in VR tech space, but most of those advancements right now are geared toward using it as a learning gadget. I am yet to come across some very strong, compelling use case of virtual reality as a performance support system where employees would use it during the workflow to do a task. Hopefully, by the time I give the next presentation in another conference, that would be out. Number 8 is related to technologies that allow employees to seek remote assistance from the experts real time when stuck at the work. For instance, plant and equipment repair technicians are using AR headsets that have inbuilt remote capabilities that allow them to pull relevant experts into the scene remotely when needed. The experts on the other side of the globe can see what these technicians see in real time. These are real time conversations, discussion, collaboration, troubleshooting happening there. Research tells us that such instant feedback, just in time coaching, hugely accelerate the time to proficiency. Also, such technologies allow building a network of coaches from different corners of the world with a different set of expertise. Research tells us that having multiple coaches with diverse experience, if we tap it correctly, could help employees master new behaviors at a faster rate. The advantage is that you don't really need to wait for an employee to be 100% ready in the training on each and everything before you can put them on to support these field issues. You can leverage these technologies to remote assist them. So these remote assist technologies provide them with the performance support at the time they really need. Okay. The most overlooked technologies are probably social technologies. Let's talk about it. When you get into a problem or forget something, what do? You ask your buddy on the next cubicle or you ask someone on the phone, and you get things solved fast by talking to others. Imagine how much wait time is cut out in your journey to produce outcomes and become proficient. That's where the technologies like instant communicators, because people now don't sit next to each other necessarily, right? So these techs get integrated into Outlook, Microsoft Teams, mobile, or other devices. But as a leader, you need to make sure that you have a strategy behind how these communicators are deployed. In fact, too much of these may be even distraction to productivity if proper strategy is not considered. Think about how the work is done in the teams. It would paint a different picture. There is group work, there is collaboration, there is an exchange, there is feedback, there is evaluation till the perfect outcome is achieved. That is what can be achieved in real time collaborative technologies. These are the technologies which allow real time work with each other, start conversation, keep it going. These are the technologies that can be project driven, team driven, or function driven. For instance, creative teams spread across the globe, they do work like this using these kind of collaborative tools. Next is using technologies that allow creating expert directories, like who has done what, who has worked with some specific customers, who has won the large deals. Imagine how powerful is that kind of know-how. I can straight away go to that person to seek tips to shorten my journey. Otherwise, I would have to start from the scratch. Not many companies do a good job in building fully validated, up to date, accomplishment based expert directories with social connectivity and other collaborative functions. More often, companies maintain directories highlighting experiences and skills of the experts rather than building a portfolio for their accomplishment, projects, results that came from the workforce analytic technologies. The reality is that employees work with each other to produce results as a group. They don't work in isolation. There are usual team interactions. They learn socially and informally from these interactions. They do so by doing work with each other, talking to each other, sharing with each other, and supporting each other. These interactions act as a powerful multiplier of skill or competency. That's why these social technologies are called community of practice technologies, which are making major impacts on speed. These are basically the platform that allow people at work to make groups and purpose driven networks on specific topics, issues, or functions. As an executive or leader of the organization, you need to figure out what's the right technology or platform for setting up learning network for specific purposes, maybe based on projects or functions or tenures of employees. In fact, for every new hire, there should be a defined network to start with. Tools like Microsoft Teams, Slack, these would allow you some features where you can create groups and networks. And if done right, you achieve this without sacrificing productivity. Rather, you will accelerate speed to performance. The technologies allow embedding purpose driven discussions, conversations, interactions among the performers in these networks, and that would help them to speed up the proficiency. But care must be taken that the technologies do not become another file dump system or email alternative. Okay, if you need to make difference with these technologies, there must be a targeted knowledge creation that can be fed back to new people to accelerate their proficiency. For instance, If you have a network on best practices on risk assessment, make sure a refined knowledge is created and shared and made as a corporate culture, like how things should happen moving forward. To wrap up, I presented you with four categories of technologies that you would need to make a conscious choice about when you are introducing new technology or when you are evaluating a new technology. Look at capabilities of technologies from the workforce analytic perspective, from the learning perspective, from the support perspective, and from the social connectivity perspective. Once you orchestrate these in an integrated fashion, you can get a substantial competitive advantage in terms of accelerating your workforce. I want to leave you with a question for reflection. Business is changing at a high speed. Is your technology strategy speed enabling to prepare employees for what's coming? If you're wondering how you can get more guidance on this, I am inviting you to two key resources. First, you can explore the books I have written on this business challenge. Check it out at Amazon or other places. If you are interested in getting more education on this topic, I invite you to join my ExpertX community of like minded professionals and experts just like you. My mission is to enable people and organizations to accelerate the path to excellence, including learning, performance, and expertise. Follow the links that I'm showing to join. And feel free to connect with me personally on any of the social media channels, mainly LinkedIn and YouTube channel. It has been my pleasure to make a difference in your learning. Thank you.